I'm sorry. But every single piece of news and footage that we're about to watch together in this video is very, very much going to piss you off. Highly recommend get yourself a beer. Highly recommend you sit down and you relax and you do some breathing exercises, because Justin Trudeau is gonna piss you off like he's never pissed you off before. And take it from me, I'm pissed off right now. I just watched everything that we're about to watch and I am very, very angry. And so I want to share the anger with you. So please don't take it out on me. And just before we get angry, before you have even the time to get angry, I'd like to encourage you guys to smash the like button and subscribe to the channel, because I don't want you making rash decisions when you're angry. Let's get right into it. Justin Trudeau spills beer at a grocery store and walks away. Get somebody else to clean it up, because he's a privileged trust fund asshole. Great to meet you.
God, what happened?
Boom.
Nice, you spilled beer. Can I go that way?
In front of kids, and then walks away.
Am I able to go that way?
Are you part of the kids?
Like, not exactly, but...
No, we're supposed to stay here for now.
Only Trudeau can go there with the kids. That sure doesn't help his whole Diddy allegations. That's not too good. That's not too good. Why, like, if you spill something at the grocery store or anywhere, just the nice, decent human thing to do is, hey, where can I get a rag or a mop and clean this up? Right? Especially if you're the prime minister and you're on camera. Like, even if it was disingenuous and you're like, oh, the cameras are here, let me just clean this up to make sure that the cameras don't portray me as a bad person. At least then, you're not wasting somebody else's time cleaning up your mess. But leave it to Trudeau to cause a mess and leave it for somebody else to clean up. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We're just getting the video started here. Next up, you have an apology video, it looks like, by Peel Regional Police. And they're doing a public safety alert about a sexual assault investigation. And there isn't one single announcement like the one we're about to watch that's in English or French. Marty up north says, I checked the Peel Regional Police's timeline. They did not make a public safety alert in English or French. It's in Punjab or an Indian language. I don't know. Let's take a look. Maybe someone recognizes this.
ਸਾਡੇ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਵਿਕਟਿਮ ਯੂਨਿਟ ਦੇ ਜਾਂਚਕਰਤਾਵਾਂ ਨੂੰ 3 ਸੈਕਸ਼ੂਅਲ ਅਸੌਲਟ ਜਿਨਸੀ ਹਮਲੇ ਦੇ ਮਾਮਲਿਆਂ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਸ਼ੱਕੀ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਨੂੰ ਲੱਭਣ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਸਹਾਇਤਾ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਘਟਨਾਵਾਂ ਬ੍ਰੈਂਪਟਨ
I'll be honest, if you don't speak French and you're a few beers in and you kind of like, you can squint your eyes and blur your vision, but if you can do that with your ears in that context of having some beers and not actually knowing French, maybe that would sound French. But that's the state of Canada. Our national anthem at sporting events gets sung in Punjab. Now we have public safety alerts that are not in English or French. I'm certain not to recognize Canada, and I feel weird saying it, and I don't know if I'll get canceled for saying it, but I really believe that. What the hell's going on with Canada? We're not the only ones that think that Canada is not really doing too good either. You also have the Prime Minister of Italy, who thinks that Justin Trudeau is full of shit. Let's take a look here.
That you've done on bringing us together on global issues in a very complicated time in the world has been incredibly appreciated and inspiring, and I look forward to picking up where to the place where you've got us and continuing on it, whether it's conversations around complex global issues like the conflict in Ukraine and our standing so strongly against Russia's illegal invasion and pushing for peace and accountability.
That look to the camera. That look to the camera right there. You ever seen The Office, and when Jim Halpert looks at the camera and like he's looking that way and then he just looks at the camera and goes, that's what that look reminds me of right there. Just one of the Jim Halpert faces from The Office. Like, I don't believe anything that this person is saying. And so, like, remember how I started the video off by saying this is going to anger you? Well, this next part is really, really going to anger you. So I hope you already gave a like to the video and you subscribed, and no take backsies if you've done that, because this is Justin Trudeau's latest thingy here, right? Action, latest corruption, latest ridiculous thing that he's done. I don't even know what to call this anymore. The Trudeau Liberals pledged $12 million to fund child care services. If there was a period there, that might be okay. But let's continue the sentence. Justin Trudeau Liberals pledged $12 million to fund child care services in the Middle Eastern nation of Jordan as Canada's child poverty rate skyrockets. So let me get this straight. Canada has spent $20 million-ish to stop people from pooping on beaches in Africa. Canada's spending $12 million in Middle Eastern countries. Canada's spending $5 billion on Ukraine. Canada's not spending enough money here in Canada. So all of these carbon taxes, all of these extra taxes, the higher cost of groceries, extra taxes that we pay here, there, everywhere, it's all going to stuff like this. It's all going outside of this country. I don't know about you, but that pisses me off. And to reward himself for this entire lack of competence, Justin Trudeau unwinds. We all know. He goes skiing in Whistler. He goes surfing in Tofino. He also goes to Taylor Swift concerts. Prime Minister Trudeau is attending tonight's Taylor Swift concert in Toronto, the Globe and Mail has learned. And chances are he's going to be taking photos with Taylor Swift. I don't know if he's paying the regular price of tickets, but for those that don't really know anything about Taylor Swift concert tickets, they are the most overpriced tickets for literally anything in the entire world. I'm assuming a VIP access to Taylor Swift concert costs less than one of those tickets that kind of brings you to the moon, lower orbit, but not really. You know, that zero gravity stunt that you can do in like a rocket ship plane type of thing. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know what Justin Trudeau is doing with our money. Well, I mean, I do. I see it. I don't agree with it. I do not consent. I don't consent to this crap. It doesn't make any sense. And speaking of not consenting, House Minister Karina Gould defends protesters' rights to visit Pierre Poilievre's house where his wife and kids reside. And she is quoting that as, well, the Freedom Convoy happened, so people have the right to protest outside of the next Prime Minister's house, threatening the next Prime Minister, the next Prime Minister's wife, and the next Prime Minister's kids. And all of this is happening while Pat King, who was part of the Freedom Convoy, is now guilty of mischief charges. Let's take a look.
One of the most recognisable figures from the 2022 Freedom Convoy protests in Ottawa has been found guilty of 2 counts of mischief. Pat King walked into court earlier this morning facing a number of charges, including mischief, counselling others to commit mischief and obstructing police in connection with the protests that gripped downtown Ottawa. The Crown alleged King was instrumental in the disruptions caused to the city and people who lived and worked nearby. His defence argued King was peacefully protesting during the 3-week-long demonstration against COVID-19 public health restrictions. Well, joining me now is Kim Schofield. She is a criminal defence lawyer. Kim, what's your reaction to this ruling?
Well, I'm not surprised that there was some fault found on his part. So public mischief, which is interfering with the quiet enjoyment, and we all know that there was certainly considerable interference with the quiet enjoyment of the residents of Ottawa. But he was also, importantly, found not guilty of the more serious obstruction charges. So he still will, of course, face a sentencing hearing, but considerably less serious on the realm of the offences for which he has been charged.
So when we talk about sentencing, what do you expect? What sort of penalty do the counts that he's been found guilty of, what sort of penalty do they carry?
Well, mischief is a strange offense in the criminal code. So it can really be a very minor offense, and it can be a very substantial offense. So the sentencing ranges vary dramatically. For instance, a public mischief could be calling 911 falsely. It could also be sending the police on a wild goose chase somewhere. It could be interfering with a government building or interfering with the quiet enjoyment of a park. But when you hold a city hostage, which is what the Crown's going to say, hostage in a sense, that the public mischief and how much damage it's caused, as far as inconvenience and even financially, they may have some estimates on that. So it won't be, it's not a simple minor offense, even though it appears sometimes that these kinds of charges are. This one, I'm sure the Crown will be taking very seriously and may still ask for a period in custody.
Okay, so you did mention, though, that the two counts that he's been found guilty of are the lesser charges. What do you make of the fact that he wasn't found guilty of those more serious charges? How should we interpret that?
Well, intimidation is an offense of violence. So public mischief isn't necessarily an offense of violence. So it puts it on a different realm of the seriousness of the breach of public standards. So in other words, a public mischief may be, I mean, obviously it's a criminal offense, but it may be just barely over. So a peaceful protest can potentially become a criminal act of public mischief. And that's what the judge had to grapple with here. But intimidation is never just barely stepping over the line. So intimidation is intimidation. It's a much more serious offense. And it is an offense of violence, even though it's not necessarily striking an individual. But it is a violent offense. So the public mischief, I think it takes it out of the realm of the very serious offenses. And if I were counsel on this, I would say, at some point you can cross that line from peaceful protest to public mischief, and it is not such a huge departure, but intimidation is. So I think on the sentencing front, it's mitigating, certainly, that he's not convicted of the more serious breach of public peace, I guess is the best way to put it.
All right, Kim Schofield.
This is bananas because the Freedom Convoy was earlier decided by the Supreme Court or whatever that it wasn't illegal, that it was a legal protest. In fact, the Emergencies Act was illegally invoked, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not really sure how they came to this conclusion, but you can see Pat King, who exits the courthouse and is met with a lot of people, a lot of reporters. Let's take a look here at this. It does get pretty chaotic.
Stop pushing. Out of the way. You're blocking. Move out of the way. Move out of the way. Move out of the way. Move. Let him move. Get out. Move. Out of the way. Move. Out of the way. Move. Get out of the way. Out of the way. Get out of the way. You're blocking him. Stop blocking him. Move. Out of the way. You guys are protecting the back.
It's enough! Get out! Get out! Let him move!
How are you?
Move! Let him walk!
Let him walk! Let him walk!
Bunch of idiots!
Stop pushing!
Let him walk! We're not fucking saying you! Move! 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 Move!
Hey, you! Stop it!
Move!
Move, bastards!
Move!
Fucking harassing! Get the fuck out!
Move!
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 Move! You're blocking his movement!
Move! Move!
Get out of the way!
Move! Move!
Get out of the way!
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people that watch these videos and that support the Freedom Convoy do not agree with this ruling. But I'll pass the question off to you right now. Do you agree that Pat King deserves to go to jail for a maximum of 10 years, or do you think this is absolutely insane? Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. And speaking of insane, we're now going to take a look at a couple of clips of Justin Trudeau. One in particular here where he says, let the bankers worry about the economy. From the Prime Minister? That seems a little weird.
We're focused on Canadians. I'll let the bankers worry about the economy. We're focused on building opportunities for kids in a fundamental way, being there to support families, because an economy works when families are confident about the future. We're focused.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like the economy might actually be part of your job, buddy. But let's take a look now at a longer version of this speech.
The CBSA has identified 16 senior members of the Iranian regime living here in Canada, violating your government sanctions you put in place after Mahsa Amini's death. So far, though, only one has been deported. Why is that, and why won't your government release their names?
We have taken significant measures to crack down on the murderous Iranian regime's impact in Canada and to hold it to account. We move forward with some of the strongest measures available to Canada in our under our immigration laws, measures that only were brought forward around the Rwandan genocide and Bosnia, to make sure that a number of Iranians who are involved in some of the terrible actions of this government do not ever be able to seek asylum or seek refuge in Canada. On top of that, we've listed the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist entity under our criminal code. We significantly their ability to have an impact on Canada. We know there is much more to do, and I can assure you that law enforcement officials and immigration officials and CBSA continue to step up to make sure that we're protecting Canadians and not harboring people who are out there to destabilize our economy and our country and hurt Canadian families.
Sir, I didn't quite hear an answer about why only one has been deported yet, respectfully. Why is it so low?
Sir, thank you for the words you have just spoken, but none of them have actually answered the question that I've asked. So could you please answer the freaking question, buddy? I mean, that's so embarrassing for a prime minister.
The law enforcement and judicial system is doing its work. Canadians have confidence in that.
Yeah, that's not a good look. No matter how you try and spin it, there's something severely wrong with Justin Trudeau. And we're not the only ones to see that. And we're certainly not the only ones to see that. Specifically, what I'm talking about is Joe Rogan. Now, Joe Rogan has been very critical of Justin Trudeau for a very long time. And the mainstream media is now picking up on it. So in this video by CBC, they made a video talking about how Joe Rogan is obsessed with Canada, but they do a deep dive into a lot of the clips and reels and YouTube shorts that you see floating around from just like random motivational channels. And they say that a lot of this stuff is actually fake and it's just meant to generate clicks and views and stuff like that. And it's not even done by necessarily real people. A lot of it is just mashed together AI stuff. I don't really believe that because I've heard Joe Rogan in the long form podcast say, I don't like Trudeau, but let's take a look at what CBC's version of this has to say.
These videos are getting millions of views, but here's the thing. They're not real.
That's not okay.
In Canada, right? Pretty insane.
Everybody's going to lose their charter rights.
They're what experts call deepfakes. Easy to make, difficult to spot, and time-consuming to debunk. They use real clips in a misleading way. And judging by some of the comments in these videos, the vast majority are falling for it. Here's how we figured this one out.
What's happening with Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada?
I'd like to welcome the Prime Minister back from his $80,000 vacation, which he got for free.
It seems like Joe Rogan believes Justin Trudeau's Christmas vacation is a big deal. The problem here is the two clips are totally unrelated and out of context. To figure this out, we wanted to find the source of these clips. So we looked up old Joe Rogan episodes. And our first clue was the episode number at the bottom of this clip. We found the episode on YouTube and then keyword search references to Trudeau. Turns out that episode is from 2019. And if you let that clip play out...
Office and...
But you see what's happening with Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada?
Yeah.
They found brown face. He was in a costume in 1981, and we're upset?
You can see Rogan's actually defending Trudeau's controversial blackface photos, not attacking his vacation. As for that Pierre Poilievre video, after searching transcripts from the House of Commons...
Yeah, I'm sorry, but there has never been a time where Joe Rogan has defended Justin Trudeau or Justin Trudeau's extremely controversial blackface. I don't know why the guy felt the need to say that. Joe Rogan has laughed at the fact that Justin Trudeau has done blackface and said it's bananas, it's crazy. Canada has a literal racist as a prime minister. I've heard him say that in long form, unedited podcasts, right from Joe Rogan's podcast site, either on his verified YouTube channel or on Spotify. So that's just a weird comment to throw in, but I thought I'd debunk that.
We found that this clip was from last January, 5 years after that Rogan clip. So not only are these clips years apart, they're not even talking about the same issue.
People were very concerned about the onslaught of deepfakes that they, saw popping up all over the internet. But what is far more common and that we should be far more worried about, because they're far more difficult to trace, are these types of cheap fakes.
Cheap fakes can be hard to spot because there's often a nugget of truth.
Pierre Poilievre. That guy's very smart.
And the truth here, Rogan has said positive things about Poilievre, but he simply doesn't talk about him as much as this account would have you believe. We found at least 12 misleading videos that feature Poilievre or Justin Trudeau on this account. So why take the time to make these cheap fakes? We tried to get in touch with whoever was behind this account, but they didn't respond. We know that in the past, they focused on finance videos and even animal content. It's possible they've just discovered political cheap fakes are a good way to go viral or make some money. Do you have something you want us to...
Okay, so that last part is something that I actually kind of agree with. The fact that it's become, I don't want to say profitable, but it's become very popular to talk about politics. Now, you, the viewers, and myself included in this, have to be careful as to which, I mean, you feel free to do whatever you want, but what channels you're choosing to watch. And I, on the back end of my, browser and stuff like that, I have, these attachments on Chrome that I can see the analytics where a channel is registered and stuff like that. There are a lot of AI YouTube channels out there, and there's an increasing amount of AI Canadian politics YouTube channels out there. Now, look, there are some great channels that have come and gone. Some are still here. Some have taken breaks and this and that who haven't shown their face. And that does not mean at all that that's an AI channel. But you, the viewer, just have to be careful, myself included, have to be careful in what we're choosing to watch. I'm not saying that we're being brainwashed. I'm just saying that people are mashing stuff together under and through anonymity with the 100% only motive of making money with no accountability. And that does seem to be a bit more of an increasing problem. But again, that's just my own personal opinion. I would absolutely love to know yours. Next up, we're going to recap what is going on with the entire GST rebate. So we're going to look at the announcement, and then we're going to look at a Liberal who sits down one-on-one with Vashi to talk about it. But let's start off with the announcement.
Good evening, everyone. The Liberals' new plan to address the cost of living is expected to kick in just days before Christmas and last until right after Valentine's Day, a temporary break from the GST on some items, as well as a $250 check for many Canadians starting next spring, both measures costing the government more than $6 billion. It comes at a time when the party is struggling to gain traction with voters. CTV's Rachel Aiello on what's covered under the exemptions and the reaction.
Hi, everyone. Lagging in the polls and having a hard time in the House, Justin Trudeau tried to turn the page today, promising Canadians temporary relief at the cash register.
Everyone had to tighten their belts a little bit, and now we're going to be able to give a tax break for all Canadians.
For 2 months, starting mid-December, the federal government is removing the GST and HST where applicable on restaurant meals, consumer goods, and more. Among the items where these taxes won't be charged are grocery store snacks, beer and wine, children's clothing, video games, puzzles, toys, and Christmas trees. The Liberals will also be sending $250 rebate checks to 18.7 million Canadians who have earned $150,000 or less last year.
If you haven't filed a tax return, file your tax return by December 31st. That will make it possible for us to send you that check.
The measures are estimated to cost the government more than $6 billion and will require legislation. To pass the bill, the Liberal minority has secured help from the NDP to break the procedural stalemate in the Commons briefly.
We want to see this relief done as quickly as possible, so we're prepared to pause the privilege motion that's being debated in the House for 1 day.
The Conservatives were quick to characterize the pocketbook pledge as inflationary, but aren't saying if they'll support it.
And today, what we have is a 2-month temporary tax trick.
Cost of living is still a top issue for voters, and pollsters say there could be some political gain here for the Liberals. But because it's time limited, there's also a risk.
I think the pressure will be on them to probably keep this in place, especially if talk of the town here in Ottawa is that we're going to be in an election in the spring.
The consumer tax break is slated to stay in place until mid-February, and the workers' rebate is set to roll out in April, right around the time of the next carbon tax increase. Omar?
Oh my goodness. He's solved all of our problems with this 60-day no GST. What an absolute joke. And here to talk about it is going to be Vashi and this guy. Let's take a look.
In May, the Prime Minister said exactly this. One of the fundamental challenges around affordability is they would love to say, well, you know what, we just need more money. Can you send us more benefits or send us an extra $1,000 a month? As soon as you do that, inflation goes up by exactly that amount. Minister, why is your government doing exactly what the Prime Minister said it would not 6 months ago?
Well, I mean, we're in a different place 6 months ago. In the last year, we've actually stayed within the inflationary target for in all of 2024. We've seen that wages have outpaced inflation for the last 21 months. And now we're in a place with today's announcement where we have the fiscal room to be able to announce a very exciting $6 billion, actually more than $6 billion tax cut that is really focused on middle-class working people. And I think at this time where Canadians, are appreciating that we're in a lower inflationary environment, but really haven't felt the benefit of that directly, that this is really going to hit home.
So when you say that the inflationary environment is different, in May, when the Prime Minister made those statements, the rate of inflation was 2.9%, also well within the Bank of Canada's target range. So what is so different now?
Well, I mean, at that point, you're only within a couple of months. I think the other great thing about this particular program is how it's targeting. So we've actually looked at ways to make life more affordable through a whole bunch of different programs, whether it's childcare, pharmacare, dental care, etc. But it's been very hard to target specifically working middle-class people. This is going to, the $250 benefit, which is the bulk of this, 75% of the measures that we're announcing today, is going to go directly to 18.7 million working middle-class professionals. And that's a really great way of targeting a group of people that really need this benefit right now.
So you think it's a targeted approach to send a check to 18.7 million Canadians worth $5 billion. You would classify that targeted?
Oh, absolutely. Because unlike dental care, which has only benefited seniors and children to date, I mean, we'll be seeing the 18 to 64-year-olds in 2025. When I knock on doors in my community, I have a lot of people that go, I see these affordability measures. I read the flyer that you produce every 30 days. But, my family's working really hard too, and we haven't seen a benefit, even though that we're struggling with affordability. This measure is speaking directly to those people.
With all due respect, though, Minister, when I have interviewed your cabinet colleague, Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland, on numerous occasions, when she insisted a targeted approach was the only fiscally responsible way to go at it, she spoke about targeted in a completely different way. Her view of targeted was it was not a wide swath of Canadians. It would not direct benefits towards 18.7 million Canadians. It would be targeted so that it wasn't inflationary in nature. How can you call a benefit, a check that you're handing to people who make $149,000 a year targeted?
Well, to be fair, I mean, this is even less targeted than that, right? Because the GST cut is actually going to benefit all Canadians. And if you're
it's
getting
not targeted.
That part particularly isn't, but the 75% that is going to working class, middle class Canadians is targeted specifically to that group. So if you're making over $150,000 a year, unfortunately, you're not going to get that benefit. And if you're not working, unfortunately, you're not going to get that benefit. So yes, while it's a big group, it is a targeted group, and it's a group of individuals that I think you've seen all parties talk about finding relief for. In fact, I would be quite surprised if this doesn't unanimously pass through the House, because there have been, all of the parties in the House have tried to find ways to help working class Canadians right across the country.
Yeah, I don't think that a single person out there thinks that this is a good long-term solution. I think that they're trying to gaslight us, and I'll be honest, it's kind of working on me, because I'm questioning my sanity. Every time they do something like this, every time the country or the Liberals give a shit ton of money to other people's problems, I have to ask myself, am I crazy? Am I missing something here? Or am I in a bubble or an echo chamber? Like, what is going on? And then I see the community in the comments. I engage in the comments. I talk with people. I get emails, and people are saying, no, man, this is pretty messed up. This is pretty messed up. And everyone is experiencing similar feelings. Maybe, the severity of those feelings could vary, but I'm extremely tired and fed up with this mismanagement, this lack of competence, and this liberal craziness that we are experiencing. But that is my opinion, folks, and I would absolutely love to know yours. And this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I did say at the beginning it would probably piss you off, and chances are you did get pissed off during the video, and I do apologize for that, but please don't take it out on me. Make sure you smack the like button and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.